Welcome to another episode of the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast. This podcast was designed to let you know that you aren't the only one that took forever to get it together. So the rabbit hole that you have stumbled down will hopefully help you understand that just when you think it's over, it's only the beginning. Just because you were dealt a bad hand doesn't mean you have to keep it. Welcome to the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast.
Hey, what's up, you guys? And welcome to another episode of the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast. It is your boy, Terry, one more time. So, if you are listening to this, this is the series, Spinning the Block. We're going to spin the block one more time. I've been in the first episode, I was starting to relive my journey and where I came from and, just give you guys a little bit of insight of who I am. Hopefully it helps somebody out. That's the kind of the purpose here. But so in episode 1, just to give you guys a little bit of a recap that didn't listen to episode 1. Episode 1, this is where life kind of started for a brother. Finding out at the age of 16, I think it was 16, that my father that raised me for as long as I can remember was not my biological father. It's kind of where trouble started. Once I found out he wasn't my dad, mindset changes and things of that nature. I went through. I give you guys a story of the crush that I had. That's how I found out that my dad wasn't my dad. And the crush that I had, and my mom kind of brought it home and was like, no, you can't date her because she's people. You can't do that. She's just sister. But we'll get into what ancestry said down the road, right? But right now, just kind of giving you a recap. Now, this is episode 2 of the origin, let's spin the block. Just to give you a little bit of the episode. So, like I said, in episode 1, I give you guys some stories. I went to the military and I came home and it was just a whole bunch of mess. You have to catch episode 1. I want to recap it all the way in this one. Like to check episode 1. So this is episode 2. This is my first marriage. Okay. My first marriage. Let me tell you something, man. This is going to be a cautionary tale of getting married way too young and not knowing what you're doing. So if there's anybody out there that's listening to me right now, please, I encourage you. If you are not ready to get married, if you are not ready, don't. Do not be pressured into getting married. Don't do that either. Because once you say I do to somebody, that's a permanent thing. I mean, everybody know what marriage is. It was rough. It was rough for me. My first marriage, oh boy, and I hope she's not listening to this, and she probably will because she kind of supports everything I do. But nonetheless, I got married at the age of 19 years old. 19. 19 is just not the age where anybody should be getting married. I don't care if you're financially stable or whatever. You should not be getting married at 19. So yeah, got married at 19 years old. I'm not gonna relay her name because it's not important here. Just know that in 19, not being married at such a young age. I mean, I didn't even know how to wipe my own ass good at 19, and here I am trying to get married, right? So here's a funny story. Well, it's not really funny, but here's a story. I met my very first wife on a hookup. My cousin, I guess her and my cousin were friends, right? That's how it started. I never knew her. Of course I know my cousin, but my cousin and her were friends. So my cousin, I guess the story that I was told from, I was told from my cousin that, hey, she's been through a rough time and she wanted a good man. I thought about you and here we are. So I get up with her, or I meet with her for the first time. I don't think it was an instant love thing. It came shortly thereafter, but it wasn't an instant type of deal. Her situation that she came out of, she was engaged to be married, and the guy that she was supposed to marry stood her up. He stood her up, and so she didn't get married. So of course, my assumption is she was still gung ho and still ready to get married, right? So I kind of came into a situation. I'm 19. I'm mad at my mom. Like I told you before in episode 1, it was strenuous between my mother and I because I feel like she had, lied to me all these years. But anyways, besides the point. So I was kind of rebellious, kind of hard-headed. Well, I ain't gonna say kinda. I was really, really, really hard-headed and really, really rebellious. And so at the age of 19, this opportunity came about. And I was like, we had a lot of situations and stories I can tell you that happened between me and her, where I actually had moved in with her and her mother and her brother and all that. And I was working at this place and I came home from work one day and her mom came home and was like, you got to go. I mean, no rhyme or reason, no warning. You got to go. Right. So, of course, what am I supposed to do? I'm not going to stay there. You know what I mean? So I went in, packed up my trash bag and got in the car and went on back home to my mom and my dad. It was tumultuous because at this time she got pregnant and she got pregnant with our second daughter, or my second daughter, my youngest. But let's go back a taste because I think I went too far in the story with her. Getting married at 19 was, or is, okay, getting married at 19 and not having any money is the hardest thing to do. So if you are getting married, no matter how old you are, have some money, saying, stash somewhere. I had nothing. I think at the time I was washing dishes at a grocery store that had a restaurant. I wasn't making any money. I had no business getting married, but because I wanted to make her happy and because she had already, she was already in that mode of marriage. And so I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's go ahead and get married. Whatever. Went to Justice of the Peace. I got married. Our first place that we rented was a 2-bedroom duplex. And, of course, we had a neighbor, an elderly neighbor. He was cool. And the guy that we rented from was a bail bondsman. He was a very famous bail bondsman in my hometown. I think he's passed away now, but he was infamous for being a slumlord, right? So we lived in this place, and it was riggedy, right? So it was me, my wife, and it was her son. She had an older son, and so she gets pregnant with my daughter, and the struggle is real. The struggle is really real. I mean, we struggled to pay bills. We struggled to put gas in our car. There was a time where we had a car, and I wrecked it coming from my mom's house when they got to an argument. It was just a tumultuous time in my life. Like I said in the beginning, this is a cautionary tale. If you ain't ready, don't do it. You know what I'm saying? If you're not ready, if you don't have that mindset to being, with one person, don't. I was 19 years old. No, I was actually 18 when I married her. We stayed married the total together 6 months. On paper, I think we stayed together for a year, right? But it's bad when both parties have the mindset of, I really don't care. Because I wasn't cheating on her, but I've done a lot of emotional cheating. Like I don't do anything physical. I've done a lot of emotional cheating. That's what happened with her. I mean, because I was 18. What am I doing with a wife? At 18. And so I would flirt. I would, cheat. I think this was before the dawn of cell phones. Thank God. But I did a lot of stuff. Like we would go to the grocery store and I would see somebody and I would flirt, in front of her. Like I didn't really care. And so when I tell you that there was a bum rush in communication, I mean, there was no communication at all. And so that with not having any communication, that broke the marriage. I mean, we were staying together at this point for formality and for the sake of, she didn't want to go back home to her mom. I didn't want to go back home to my mom. So we stayed, we kind of stayed together for that. Don't ever, ever, ever in this life stay with somebody because you don't want to do anything. If you need to go back home, do it. If you need to restart your life, do it. Don't stay with somebody. That's almost as bad as staying with somebody because of the sake of the kids. It doesn't work. You staying with somebody, you're living with somebody that you really can't stand. You really can't stand, but you stay with them because of whatever reason you stay with them. If it's anything other than the love, don't do it. Okay, that's a little tidbit going in. So, like I said, I can tell you stories about that marriage all day long. I'm not going to sit here and bore you with those, but there are some entertaining stories. But there is a sad story I'm going to tell you here at the end that really crushed me, and it to this day still affects me. And this is something that I realized in therapy, that there's certain things in my life that I've gone through. Even though I'm 50, I can go back all the way to 17 and tell you, I can pinpoint different times in my life where I wish things would went different, things that still affect me emotionally today. Okay. And we'll get to that. So when I tell you, when we both got that mindset of, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing nothing. We ain't paying no bills. We ain't doing nothing. So we got to the point where now we both love to shop and travel, right? So we got to the point where we were like, okay, we got the rent money, right? It was crazy. We got the rent money, but instead of paying the rent, we actually put it we put gas in the car and went to Myrtle Beach and went to the outlet to go shopping. I mean, that was both our mentalities. Listen, man, y'all got to be on the same page. It just has to be that way. You got to be on the same page. If you're not on the same page, it ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work. You're waiting for a catastrophe to happen. It's not gonna work. And so, of course, we come back from our little mini excursion. Come back, and our landlord was like, "Okay, we got to go. We got to move out," and he evicted us. That was kind of the bottom. That was kind of the lowest at that point. I mean, that was even lower than when I didn't pay the water bill one time and we didn't have water. And so that was bad. I made some mistakes, made some bad choices. So he ended up putting us out. And I went back to my mother's house, and she went back to her mother's house. Now, this is the cautionary tale. Okay, this is what happened at the end. Okay. She was pregnant with my daughter. She was almost due. I mean, she might have been 7 months pregnant. I'm living at my mom's. I got a pretty good job. Right at this point, I got a pretty good job. I'm making pretty good money. I'm all right. And so when she gets, now her doctor was was actually in the next town from my hometown, right? I lived in one, our doctor was in the town next door. Now her mother lived in the next county the other way, right? So what she did was 8 months pregnant, she sent her to live with me because to be closer to the doctor. So, I'm excited. I got my wife, I got my daughter coming. I'm excited. But we lived with my mother and my father. Now it was kind of a tight spot. And then my mother and father were both ministers. They didn't appreciate that. We were married. So they didn't really like it. But anywho, so she goes into labor. Now, let me go back up. Before she went into labor, I think a week before she went into labor, I took my paycheck, bought everything. I bought the crib, I bought diapers, I bought the wiper one. I mean, I did everything. I bought all kinds of stuff, clothes, blankets, bottles, everything. You name it, I bought it. Right. And so I'm thinking, okay, this is gonna be okay. We're gonna work, we're gonna be all right. And one day I went to work. I went to work my shift. I came home. I walked in the house and it just seemed empty. It just seemed empty. Now, mind you, we didn't have any conversations about nothing. We were living like a family, right? I got all the stuff, crib, stroller, the carrier, the whole down. I mean, I bought everything. So this day, I walk in the house and my mother is sitting on the couch and she's crying. I never forget. I can always picture, I can name you every time I see my mother cry, right? And so she was on the couch and she was crying. said, Mom, what's wrong with you? Now, I didn't, I didn't think about it. I didn't hear Brianna crying. I didn't hear Monica moving. I'm sorry. Ooh, my wife moving. And so she's on the couch crying. And I say, Mom, what's wrong with you? And she says, they're gone. They're gone. And her mother, my wife's mother, drove down to my mother's house and took my wife and my daughter and everything that I bought and left. When I tell you, that's an empty feeling, because that's not what you signed up for. I mean, because you did everything you could. You're under the same roof. You buy everything the baby needs, supplies, all that. And to come home and everything is gone. Everything. Wife, daughter, all the supplies. That was that empty feeling if you've never felt that empty, that was the emptiest that I felt at that point in my life. That was the emptiest and the loneliest part of my life. Why would she do that? And don't you know that I never got a phone call with an explanation? But I knew what was going on, because her mother was, at that time, a little bit overbearing, and, whatever she said, you did. Not me, her, what I'm saying? But all because immaturity, because it should have been a phone call from me to her. Like, what's going on? Like, why'd you do that? We actually did talk about it. It was like a couple of weeks or a month down the road. We talked about it. It was like, what happened? Why, what? What did I do? You know what I'm saying? But Mom wanted her home. So she went home, unbeknownst to me. So I said all that in this episode to say this: if you're not ready, don't. We have to get to a place to where we know or learn how to guard our hearts, because trauma lasts over years. And if you don't get any kind of help for it, it will consume you, and you will do things out of character because of your trauma. And I had so much trauma, and that just steamrolled. It was bad. Like, I really didn't trust people. I mean, it was bad enough because I didn't met my mom. I didn't trust people, women in general. And then this happens. And there was another story, but I'm not even going to talk about that. Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. But trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. And the mistake that I made was that I moved from situation to situation and not dealing with the trauma. So it's really, really important that if you're listening to me, and if you're going through something right now, listen. The positive speaker in me is that it's going to be okay. It's not okay to be okay, but it's going to be okay, and we're going to work through it. But it takes work. It takes the desire and the willingness to want to be better, and that's what it has to be. If you want to stay in your trauma, look, let's not fake the funk. Let's not be okay. Well, I'll be okay. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm not gonna deal with it. I'm that guy. I used to be that guy. Parts of me still am that guy. I don't want to deal with it right now. I'll deal with it later. I'll deal with it tomorrow. You're being lazy and procrastinating when you're healing. That's me. That's probably somebody else that's out here listening. We're procrastinating, not healing. It's totally up to us, though. Nobody can fix it. Nobody can heal it but us. You can't depend on someone else. See, that's when, you step into something else, then you got insecurity, and you got non-trust, you got trust issues, and you got all kinds of stuff. Listen, stop what you're doing, get your healing. That's all you got to do. I know it's easier said than done, but I'm just saying, it took me 50 years to get here. Don't let it take you 50 years. All right? So, with that being said, thank you for joining. Thank you for listening to the second episode. Let's spin the block one more time. You guys have a great rest of your day. Stay tuned for episode 3 in a couple of days. You guys have been awesome. If you have any questions about the episodes and you kind of wondering, Terry, what the hell are you talking about? Knucklehead Chronicles podcast @gmail.com. Hit me up. I got you back. You guys have a great rest of your day. And remember, Jesus love you. I do too. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening. I hope I didn't fry your brain too bad. Come back through and give me another chance. You can listen on all platforms and visit us at knuckleheadchroniclespodcast.podbean.com. Until next time, in the words of the incomparable Jerry Springer, take care of yourself and each other.